lot of us have families. You're not getting older, but you do have a family.
Yes, I do.
Right? And we need to be thinking ahead of things. My parents thought ahead long time ago, and they created a living trust. And now Rob Mansour is on to talk about that, an estate planner, an attorney, an Oxy grad.
Oxy grad, that's right,
Absolutely.
proud of it.
Yeah.
And Oxy statistic, most Oxy grads marry other Oxy grads, and my wife is also an Oxy grad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
very
she,
cool.
you know, I'm a good catch, so what can I say?
You are a good catch,
Yeah,
Rob.
thank you very much.
Let's talk about this. We're going to start the conversation off with something very basic, the living trust versus a will. What's the better way to go?
Okay, if you have more than $150,000 in California, real estate, bank account, investment, etc., you're better off with a trust. A will only goes into effect when you die. So if you have a will, a lot of people say, oh, I have a will. I said, that's great, but it doesn't mean anything while you're still living. Nobody can use a will to assist you in case of incapacity or you get into an accident or something like that. A will is just a wish list of where you want your things to go when you die. I want my vase to go to my cousin Sally. I want my car to go to my cousin Vinny. I want this to go here, this to go there. That's all a will does. And you got to go to court with the will. That's called probate court. You've heard of criminal court, civil court, juvenile court.
Right.
Well, there's something called probate court. And that's where the judge makes sure that Sally gets this and Johnny gets that and the house gets to the kids. And it's court supervised, but it's very expensive. It takes a long time, sometimes 2 years or more. And it's very frustrating because who has the time? Also, let's say you have a house that's going through the probate process. Somebody has to pay the mortgage on that house. And sometimes the family doesn't have the money. So everybody's kind of like, okay, what are we going to do? And I've had families have to walk away from certain assets because they could not afford to continue making the payment while it's making its way through this probate system.
Wow. So now I know a big misconception is if you have a will, it doesn't go to probate. But that is a huge misconception.
Well, a will is almost guaranteeing probate because a will is a letter to the judge. Dear Judge, this is where I want my stuff to go when I pass away. That's all it is. Now, some people try to get
over here?
I'm getting very nervous.
We better get you an estate plan quick
Yeah.
because you're about to.
We got about 6 minutes left in the segment. Can we get
quick,
it done?
Quick. Let's get your paperwork in order. But you're right. Yeah, there are other things that people try to do. They try to do joint ownership as a way around a will. They'll say, I'll just own things jointly with my spouse, but that has its own dangers, and if you want, we can get into those. But I don't know, if that's something that you want to address.
Well, let me ask a quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have one child.
Yep.
What happened? Is everything automatically going to go to him?
Okay. What's your son's first name?
Chris.
Chris. Okay, so you pass away. You're unmarried, correct? Everything will go to Chris according to California law. How old is Chris?
21.
Okay, so Chris will get everything right away, which might be fine. But remember, he's got to go through the probate process to get everything.
Oh.
If you
Which
own
could
real
take
estate,
some time.
Yeah. There's no magic pixie dust that comes from the sky and makes everything belong to Chris. He can't just sell your house or your car or things that he doesn't own. And he can't just start doing that. Also, is it really a good idea for Chris to get everything at 21? Maybe he should get things at 25 or 30. What if Chris is in a bad marriage and there's a divorce pending? Should that ex-spouse get half of your stuff during that process? What if Chris becomes a spendthrift and can't hold on to money? What if he's in bankruptcy or creditor trouble, or he made a bad investment and they're coming after him?
Don't forget, he's an Oxy guy, so do you think he's going to do all these things?
No, of course not. But somebody
possible.
other than Chris might have
I
those
got you.
problems. And wouldn't it be nice if everything was sitting in the Dave Caldwell Trust, protected for Chris's benefit, and shielded away from all of these things? That might be a good idea.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Now, I know people in my life that actually have well over $150,000 in real estate and so on and so forth, and they don't have a will or a trust.
Right.
And the thought process is, well, when one of us goes, it automatically goes to the other anyway. It doesn't matter. We don't need it.
Automatically is a big word, because let's say my wife and I own something together, like a bank account. Oftentimes, husbands and wives are together on real estate and bank accounts. One person dies, yes, that's true. The remaining spouse does get everything. But at some point, you're going to run out of people. And now you got one person on that asset. And so now what do? So let's say, for example, my wife and I own our house together. Let's say I pass away, okay? Men generally pass away first for some reason. So I pass away first, right? Dave, no comments. But then my wife meets somebody new. Let's call him Bill. And she and Bill get married, and she puts Bill on everything. And then my wife passes away. Guess who owns everything? Bill. My kids get nothing. This is the problem with joint ownership. Joint ownership is one of the leading reasons why people lose their wealth in this country. Remarriages, new friend, somebody you put on your account with you. Sometimes you put people on the account just because you want them to be able to pay your bills and help you out. But what you don't realize is that you've essentially given them that asset.
Right.
So automatically also is not true. I had a client who had a property in Orange County. He passed away. His wife did get that house, but she had to go through the court system to get it because it was only in his name. So yes, she eventually did get it, but it was even more complicated because he had some natural children from a previous relationship. So now the wife owns the property with those kids from the previous marriage, and they are in business together now, and they don't get along very well. So California has a plan for you, but I always tell clients, look, you take control. You say when people are going to get your stuff and how they're going to get your stuff. Don't let California dictate what happens.
How easy or difficult is it to create a living trust? Is it a long process, or is it simply an office visit? You can get it squared away, and does it need to go through a court to be certified?
No, not at all. It's a contract. So let's say you and, let's say Tammy and her husband come in and they want to do an estate plan. They sit down with me. We spend probably about an hour and a half devising the plan. We also want to talk about what kinds of living trusts are most appropriate. Because it's not like you just buy a car. You don't go to the dealership and say, hey, give me a car. And you have to check, well, what kind of car do you need? So then Tammy and her husband and I would talk about what kind of trust would be best, how the children should receive their inheritance. Should it be all at once? Should it be in stages? Who is going to be in charge of everything in that trust if anything happens to Tammy and her husband? And this first process is probably an hour and a half meeting, sometimes 2 hours. And then I work on the documents and I send them to the client for the review. The whole process takes about 45 days to 60 days. Keep in mind that a living trust and a will are just two things in the toolbox that you get. You're going to get an advanced health care directive for each party. You're going to get durable powers of attorney, marital property agreements. If you own a business of any sort, there needs to be paperwork regarding that. So the first question people always say is, how much for the trust? But when I educate them that a trust is just one tool in the toolbox, they start to get a better idea that there's more to it than just one legal document.
Right. Well, you know, when you're in a situation where there is one surviving parent and something happens to them, and there's no directive as to who is in charge of making the medical decisions. And I can imagine my 4 children, because I would have 2 feeling one way, 2 feeling the other.
And nobody in charge. 2
would be saying, pull the plug, and the other 2 would be going, no, save her. I won't say which 2 are which. But
also keep in mind that this healthcare directive, for example, it's very important because it not only allows you to, the proverbial pull the plug scenario, but it allows you to be an advocate for that loved one. You can raise trouble in the hospital if people are not paying attention to that person. If you can get the medical records and go to another facility, you can take that individual and take them to a different location.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, without those tools, you might find yourself very frustrated. Yeah.
Rob, thank you very much for joining us. We've got to take a break here, but
Thank you, Dave.
I have a feeling that we're going to need to bring Rob back.
We definitely need to bring Rob back. Will you come back?
Sure, yes. You're both very nice, and I love the set, so yes, it's my honor.
We need to talk personal injury when you come back.
Oh, yeah.
We need to talk my case with the Super Bowl people that are going to sue me for saying Super Bowl.
Litigation, yes.
Yes. So, you know, we're going to have you back.
Well, thank
You're
you very
awesome,
much.
Rob.
Appreciate
Call
it.
Rob. He's awesome.
Call Rob Mansour. If you want to get his information, you can always go to our website, scvtoday.com. We will direct you over to Rob's best way to contact.
Thank you very much.
We'll do that. As Tammy mentioned, the big game is coming up this weekend. I'm not going to say what. I respect the NFL. You're not going to say anything? You good with that?
I was going to say the NFL can suck it, but I won't.
Oh, boy.
Mackenzie Hall is going to join us here in just a moment. We're going to talk about healthy big game snacks.